with me a moment. It wants to keep dropping things, so anyways, I think that's gonna hold. Think there. Okay. So, how's it going? Happy Friday. Let me just pull the stream up on my laptop so I can monitor the chat. And I really need to install OBS. Actually, well, need to start using OBS. What have we got? We are going to be working on a page from Ricky B, the Rock and Roll Rat today. And so I try to adjust the phone holder. Well, I think we're just going to have a bit of a funny angle, but that's how it goes, eh? So, what is this? This is page, it says here 18, but in terms of the story, I think it's page 6, because here I'm counting from like the title pages and whatnot. But this is a page, the next page from Ricky B Goes to Sea, my graphic novel. What we had in the last stream, or last Friday stream, and sorry I missed last Friday as I was under the weather, but the last Friday stream we did the big spread where Ricky hears the voice of God telling him to go forth into the sea and fetch the big shiny rock from the Shipwreck movie. So that would be that diamond and sapphire or blue diamond, whatever it's supposed to be, from Titanic. So Ricky has heard that and he's taking his marching orders, and we are going to start in the top corner and work down. The story is narrated by Ricky. I think I've said that before. So anyway, whatever, I'm trying to figure out where to put my little shot glass full of ink. Whatever side I put it on is going to be the wrong side with my hand going across, but whatever. We're going to try working with the glass pen today because this is going to be some small lines, right? Fairly small scale, and we're going to just get after it. And for context, for anyone who may have missed, Ricky, this is a Monday morning. Ricky's hungover. He was awakened by this divine voice. And so he is lying on the floor in his basement bedroom at his mama's house. And that's why he's all hunched over like that. So, trying to get his characteristic punk rock Sid Vicious wannabe hairdo all in place, and his big round ears, and kind of works actually. This nib for this scale works pretty well. It's a little scratchy, but you know, I think that's just kind of how these glass pens are. What would be kind of interesting at some point, I think, would be to try and see if they have any that have like a fatter nib, because that's fairly I wouldn't say fine, because it's not like a crow quill, but it is definitely not a super thick pen. But we got his little whiskers. And what I'm going to do for my frames, what I tend to do is just use a really fat nib to put a thick black line. That's how I do it in Procreate for my webcomic Noah's Archipelago, and I kind of adopted that here. All the pages in this book are going to have a very hi Stasis ozone layer. Hope I said that right. How's it going? All the pages in this book are going to have a thick black border. That's a full bleed, so that way the black in between the frames kind of blends into that. Okay. Glass pen is not wanting to transfer too much ink. we will be moving on to a different pen. Ye Old Faithful. Only because I can push down on it and force the ink out a little bit more between the tines and get a bit of a thicker, thinner line as well. Hello, Christine. How's it going? So Ricky's arm's going to kind of disappear into the borderline between the frames, which is fine. I think I want to have some sort of rays coming down, like he is looking up to the heavens or whatever. Well, thanks, Christine. And hello, Italian Stallion. Sleep time now. Yeah, I mean, over there, right? Was it I'm on the west coast of Canada, so Pacific time. So I guess you guys would be, what, 8 hours ahead? 9 hours, something like that? I think I'll do the big thick lines at the end. Except let me think about that. So I also like working top left all the way down. So yeah, I'll run this ink out and then I'll get the fat nib to go over. So normally for most of the text, I went through and I used, I think it was a pigment, one of these guys, the Staedtler pigment liners for all the lettering. But for somewhere I wanted to kind of do a typography, hand-drawn, whatever, make the text really big and fat, I just did it with the underdrawing and be filling it in this way. Gives a little bit of texture variation too. We'll call the imperfections when the line breaks up or trails off, we'll call that character as opposed to sloppiness. I think at a certain point, most personal style comes down to some level of acceptable sloppiness, but that's, I might be biased in that because my work is a little bit sloppy. If I could fly, how would I fly? I think the Superman style would be pretty fun, you know, just line your belly, be able to look down and just go zooming straight forward. On the other hand, you don't, because you're looking down, you either get a crick in your neck to watch where you're going, or you risk bashing your head into a building or a mountain if you're not paying attention. I would certainly be trying to avoid flying economy, although, I mean, considering the cost, sometimes that's just the option you got. But usually, if I can drive somewhere instead of flying, I usually do, if at all possible. They keep promising us the whole flying car thing, but I'm kind of pretty sure it's not, well, I can't say never going to happen because at some point all sorts of things could happen with the technology, but it seems further and further apart or away from where we actually are. That would be pretty awesome. Have your own little flying pod, basically, and certain amount of leg room, etc. Well, I guess it depends. If I have to actively fly the flying car, then it's probably a pain in the ass. But if it had like an autopilot feature, that would be pretty awesome. Debating, do I want to fill in those letters and make them extra black, or do I want to leave them white? I'm going to think about that. Because of course, once I fill them in, there's no unfilling them in. Ricky, as we will find later in this story, Ricky is definitely a fan of mushrooms and other such substances. Hence why I definitely had to leave room for a little mushroom in Ricky's little explanation of good ideas. Another little bit of fluff in the nib. And here's where I embarrass myself because it would be pretty clear that I don't really have a good grip on what pot leaves look like. Think something like that. I actually did hang out with all the stoner kids at school, but by that point, it would already be crushed and rolled up into a joint. So, though I think a couple of my neighbors possibly have a couple plants that they grow outside in the summer. So I guess I should stick my head over the fence and have a look. Ricky obviously is a boob man, not a butt man, but at least based on this illustration. And he is a rat, so, he is a big lover of cheese as well. Of course, because he's a rat, the girl would be as well. There's her other arm coming down. So we'll give her a tail. And some hair. slice of pizza over by the beach. Now, well, I guess it's a really gigantic slice of pizza considering the scale. Or one of those pool floaties that just looks like pizza. So, let's go to the big fat nib. And then the top half will be complete once that is done. I've got basically 90% of the book drawn out with the blue outlines like this. So kind of keep going, but my plan for tonight is to get through definitely 2 of these pages and possibly a third. We'll see how it all goes. Make that a little bit thicker. Oops. Well, stuff like that. When the book is eventually completely done, we will be spending probably 3 days scanning and photoshopping and fixing things up before it gets put into the InDesign PDF file of the book. So this sort of thing will get fixed then. Though some stuff like this wiggle I'll probably leave because I do like that it gives that hand-drawn kind of a look. So, and now before I do the next ones, I gotta come down and do detailed drawings on this frame. And what I've got off on the side to wash nibs in between is just 3 of these glass bowls with plain water. So kind of shake things around, get the worst of the crud off, and that kind of also, in theory, stops them from getting all gunked up. That is definitely an in theory sort of thing. Because as you work, your ink will dry in your nibs, and there's kind of just no way around it. So, got him in his swimming pool. I just want to give the sense that there's some tiling here. I'm not going to worry too much about, proper perspective lines. Because also, if we're low enough to be at his level, then technically that's actually above our eye line. But it's kind of cartoon stylization. We're not too concerned about what's accurate in the perspective. So, I don't know what public pool Ricky's going to that let him take a beer bottle into the pool, but I guess the lifeguards weren't watching. I don't know how much that actually shows up on camera until I ink it in a minute or two. And the thing with doing the fatter frame dividers too is that it helps show once it's all done that like that line is not a frame division, it's part of the scenery. Not that it makes that big a deal. Of course, if you actually outlined your frames and left a white gutter in between them, you'd have the same effect, but that's kind of how my brain interprets it anyways. Get Ricky Sid Vicious hair going here. I don't know why he's going into the pool with it. It's just going to get ruined and end up flat against his head, but you know. I will draw splashing around him, but I think the fatter nib, when it's kind of half out of ink, kind of gives a bit of a better effect on that. But we'll do a little bit of thinner black kind of motion lines like that as well. And then we want to draw his, what are they called? Water wings. I don't even know if they make adult-sized water wings or if it would just be put on the flotation vest thing, but you know, I think it's funnier if he's wearing water wings. The other thing, as I'm kind of going under the water line, I'm trying to keep the pen thickness thinner to kind of make it like you're seen, but it's not super detailed because of the distortion of the water, right? And also he's flailing, so you know that's gonna impact how clear everything is. But we will assume that his tail is coming up out of the water, at least in part. And we'll give a little bit of that tile texture around the signage as well. I said, when we do the fatter lines with the thicker nib, we'll also kind of come in and do a little bit of almost like scraping with the fatter nib, and that gives also kind of a effect of water too. We have kind of a running joke in this book, which we'll see multiple times over the coming weeks and months it takes to finish it. So there are a lot of brand names in this rat world have the word rat in it. So Rat Salute Vodka, McRats is their version of McDonald's, etc. Rat Cola, a few different versions that we see. So Rat Salute Acme being the first version here. Started with this one because it's higher, but I think I'll actually go over and work backwards because otherwise I might drag my hand across the wet ink. So get the little motion lines as he's scratching his head. These are, of course, going to disappear into his hair, but, well, at least the one is, but we won't worry about that too much. After all, we also have the little scratch sound effect there. Actually, because I got to draw his bed, hang on one second, I'm going to grab a previous page from couple weeks ago, so I can note exactly how I have his bed set up, and I'll hold that in front too. So that's the first page of the graphic novel. So, okay. So I'll set that over to the side where I can see it and use it as a reference. So he has mostly white sheets, I guess, so it doesn't really matter that much. Why is that all clogged up? We'll try and get the match on the floral pattern on the mattress. And I'll scratch out where the foot of the bed was, because really where he's sitting, he's not towards the end of it enough that you would actually see the feet of the bed frame. And got some crud in the tip of this nib. We may have to switch nibs. I think I've mentioned on previous streams that this particular paper, it's a recycled Bristol paper, Bristol board paper, and it does have a little, it does seem to get a little bit shredded by the metal nibs, and then I get little bits of fluff in the nib, and then it doesn't want to draw. So anyways, I think I got that removed. And give a little indication of his carpet. I'm adding some, it's not really cross-hatching, but some hatching type marks in here, but I am going to make his jacket darker by going over it with the fat nib as well. But then I want some of this texture showing through. Kind of makes it look a little bit more like a older, crumpled black leather coat jacket, which is what it is. So loosely based on what I have, although mine is red, not instead of black. looking at the first drawing of his quilt as a reference. Looks like it's got a border that is a light color, and then it gets into the... Oh, I've drawn his quilt way down here. It's a little different than what I drew in the first page, but we'll kind of go with that, actually. Assume that he has a top sheet, and somehow it is changed position since the first page, but kind of adds a little more texture to have the two sheets, so we will go with that. I'm probably going to regret that for doing that way very shortly, but because it's going to make the pattern a little harder to stick to. Pretty sure this is the last time the bed is in the whole book, so and his room was quite dark based on the photo. Sometimes when you have a blanket, even if it's like a checkerboard like this, once it gets crumpled up, you will end up having like two dark squares together, etc. Um, so, or some that kind of disappear into the folds that way. But to kind of try to still maintain the pattern as best as possible so that it makes visual sense. Like here, I kind of messed that up, but we will fake it. That's what we will do. We will fake it. Keep messing up. Okay. Let me think about this now. That one. And that one. We are getting pretty close to being done with this page. Although I do need to put some work in with the big fat nib as well. That's picking up some gunk on the nib again. Where's the big nib? Just have to be careful as I am drawing this, so I put a hand under my hand so that I keep my wrist up and off of the page. And we will fatten that up. So this is what I was talking about earlier about getting some of that sort of water splashy texture. And a bit of this on Monday where I was drawing Miles in his motorboat and the bow wave and whatnot. So that. And I did say I want to darken in his jacket. So by having done the thinner lines underneath, then it kind of gives some like texturing in the highlights like that versus if I had not done that and only done the bigger nib. And a little bit of that there. And I think I am going to leave the letters unfilled, so I guess I just got to put a little bit of darkness on the wall back here. And now we can move on to the next page, which follows on from this one in the spread. So just gonna set that down over there. So we go from that page, the next one. He didn't answer like verbally, you know. So set that aside. And just thinking, is there anywhere where I can get rid of this ink? Well, we're just gonna deal with that, or let it soak out and go straight to a smaller nib. And again, starting top left and working our way down. By the way, the ink I'm using is Demco India ink. I found that at Opus Art Supplies in Victoria. I have done a lot of stuff with the Speedball, but I wasn't happy with the last couple bottles I've gotten of the Speedball. Although they do seem to get better. Like when I first opened them, they seem really runny and kind of more charcoaly colored than pure black, but then they sort of, I guess, evaporate out a bunch of the excess water as I've got the bottle open drawing, and then they start looking good, and then they start getting gunky and thick and a pain in the butt to draw with. Probably every ink bottle has that trajectory, but yeah, Ricky's hair is a little messed up here, but yeah, he's got, well, I was going to say bed head, but he's got bedroom floor head. I think for here, I'm going to maybe leave the background blank. So there's Ricky, the dejected rat dude, just in this blank white room, which is clearly not what it actually looks like, because as we've just seen, it's dark and all that. But actually, because I finished with the room, I can stick the reference somewhere over on the floor where I'm not going to drip accidentally get ink goobered on it. Really going to regret having drawn in those epaulettes on Ricky's jacket. If so, then I guess it's something I'll Photoshop out towards the end of process, but for right now, we're just going to leave it. Forgot to draw Ricky's tail. Well, we'll fix that. The legacy's kind of sitting on it, but and then we'll use the fat nib to come down and put that line in. So now we have a view into Ricky's brain, or at least into Ricky's skull. I had to figure out a way where I wanted to reference Yellow Submarine, but not actually quote it, because then you'd have to get permission and all that kind of crap. So, therefore, that we all blocked due to copyright something something. Draw the outline of his whiskers. Ricky's teeny tiny brain. Kind of echoed by the cloud in the sky. A little tiny sailboat on the horizon. Mickey's hair very, very stylized in this particular frame. But okay, I'm gonna do the upper fat lines between the frames, and then we'll deal with the submarine. Since this is black and white, it's going to be scanned in black and white, and all the blue lines are going to vanish. So the fact that I overestimated how much space I was going to need for the caption, well, that is not going to be an issue. It's just going to go away. So Doesn't really look that much like John Lennon, but whatever. Give that guy the John Lennon glasses. I will come in with a slightly, not the big fat nib, but just a slightly fatter nib once I finish this drawing to give some more definition to like the cheese and the parts of the sandwich. Now for a, well, before I do the fattest nib for that frame barrier, I'm just going to switch nibs on the other pen. And give just a little extra weight to some of these lines. I'm not going to worry so much with, well, actually, maybe I am going to give just a little bit of extra heft to the outline of the skull, because then that immediately makes, you know, what's in Ricky's head a little more, well, I don't want to say delicate, but it does make it recede a little bit, I guess. You don't have to go all over, just in a few spots indicates that, you know, this is heavier and more prominent. And like separating his little brain from the happy cloud in the background, that sort of thing. Doesn't take much, but it does help. And same with our sandwich, our submarine. Realize I forgot a little bit of tightening I'd like to add, so I'm just going to do it with the glass pen. And we'll add in a bit more of Mama Rat's hair. Kind of an 80s perm style, although Ricky's not actually old enough for that. So now we will go for the big fat line, and basically then we are done this page, I think. Right. How are we doing for time? It's 20 to 8. Usually like to keep things under 2 hours or just about, but also my phone wasn't 100% charged when I started. I don't know how long, well, I kind of do know how long the next page is going to take. It's going to take about 45 minutes. So I think we will skip going forward with that. And so next week on Friday, we have actually an ad spread, which is, I mean, they're not real ads, but when I was planning out this book, after I had done the main story that this is part of, and what we did earlier, of course, I found out somewhere that, and I didn't remember because most of the comics I read as a kid were like newspaper comics. So yeah, there were ads, but there were like newspaper ads around the comics, not in them. Or stuff like I remember having like a Wonder Woman book that was actually like a hardbound book, and it was comic art, but it wasn't really a comic book. You know what I mean? Um, so I was not really much of a collector of comic books in the proper sense. I do have a few, but I found out somewhere along the line when I was working on this that they used to have like ad spreads, even going back into the golden age, like the 40s. So what we're going to start having now, interrupting the story, that becomes the B plot, is these ad spreads. So what we will be drawing in next Friday's stream is the first ad spread, which kind of we've got Mama Rat having gone to bingo, um, and we've got this mustard submarine thing. So there's an ad for each of those, and then there's a couple other ads in the spread, and then we come back to the story, and we'll start seeing more of these ads going through, and then Ricky finds out he's not getting paid for them. So and that's as much as I'll say about the B plot for now. But so what we are going to do then is wrap up this stream. I will show once more what we have done. So this is the first page. And this comes out of I did not last week because I missed last week's Friday stream, but 2 Fridays ago with the big super black spread where we had a little bit of the wreck of the Titanic poking out of the black and the big shiny rock, the necklace and whatnot, and this voice telling Ricky to go forth unto the sea and fetch that big shiny rock from the shipwreck movie, and it'll impress his girlfriend. So that was the vision he has, and that's why we have the okay, Lord, and then his narration. Well, it sounded like a good idea to me. I mean, it was from God and all, and I think you can be pretty sure he knows a thing or two about good ideas. And then Ricky's idea of some of God's great ideas, and then the whole thing about the sea. But I don't swim so good, even though us rat men are generally okay at it. So he's in 2.5 feet of water, and Ricky is, it's not really mentioned in this book yet, but elsewhere it is established that Ricky is 5'11", which he defines as regular height for a rat man. Now, we don't know if that's like when his hair is sopping wet flat against his skull, the top of his skull is 5'11", or the tippy tops of his ears are 5'11", but point is, he should not be panicking in 2.5 feet of water. And he's got a beer bottle, so you know this is when he's a grown-up, not, you know, he's not reminiscing about long, long ago. He's just spazzing. Anyway, so then he says, and also I was hungover pretty bad because this is a Monday morning. So we've got the Rat Salute vodka mixed with the Acme, you know, the old cartoon joke about Acme anvils falling on heads and stuff, and he's barfing. He says, so I asked him about all that. And he didn't answer. Like, verbally, you know? But I suddenly got that old song from that kids movie stuck in my head. We all blocked due to copyright. Something, something. You know which one I mean? There's like a submarine, and it's like got mustard with some cartoon dudes who talk funny in it. Blimey, imagine there's no Yoko. All you need is cheese. That is like the worst rendition of that melody ever, but whatever. And then Ricky says, Mama Rat used to play that all the time when I was a little rat. So she's saying, watch this. I gotta go to bingo. She doesn't look like she's dressed for bingo, but you know. And so Ricky, as a little kid, is gonna sit and watch Mustard Submarine once again. So we will proceed from here. Well, next week's show will be the ad spread that interrupts the story. That's actually part of the B plot. And then the week after that, we will continue on with Ricky's resolution to act on what he thinks the Lord has said to him. So, and as always, I kind of like to point out, Ricky isn't a liar, but he is an unreliable narrator because he is a misunderstander. So, anyways, hope you've enjoyed this week's little stream. Next stream is on Monday. I will be working on Miles Morrow's Pursuit of Happiness. What have I got him doing next week? I think he's going to a nightclub, and I don't remember the other thing. Number crunching, maybe? Or there was something else. Anyways, we'll have a spread with Miles. And then Tuesday, we are doing more inking, and that is going to be... the hell? Somebody needs a new muffler. I don't know if that picked up in the mic. Anyways, the Tuesday stream will be... I've got 2 more live stream thumbnails to ink. So we will work on those on Tuesday. And then we'll go from there. Other videos, I've got 2 videos coming out this weekend. Tomorrow around noon, I'm going to be posting my quote-unquote scuttlebutt videos where I talk about the art that I've made this week. Filmed it this morning, so this obviously isn't going to be in there. I'm probably going to start doing those as live streams in a week or 2, just because that way I don't have to edit the video. pure laziness, but then also if people are watching, they can ask, you can chat at me and ask questions or whatever. So that'll be becoming a live stream soon. And then I've got a Sunday show and tell, which will be actually some old watercolors that I found from 2016. So, and actually before we go, just one little thing is bothering me, so I'm going to fix it with the glass pen. Just a little, just kind of fill that in. There, that's better. And that's better. And that doesn't matter so much. There. Now I gotta go, OCD. You wouldn't think with my art style I'd be OCD, but certain things, if they bother me, they really bother me. So there we go. Last minute fixes. All right. So thank you for watching, folks. And thanks for everyone who popped into the chat. And we will catch you again real soon. Have a great weekend. Bye for now. However the wave should go. Bye.